welcome to the podcast. I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to Living the Next Chapter. I have a special guest with me today, a friend of mine, known him for many, many years. And this is a unique podcast for me today, a unique episode in that my guest today, Mark Griffin, is a ghostwriter. Now, I've never actually spoken to a ghostwriter before about the process of writing books for other people, and he has multiple books and doesn't get into the details of the book titles that he's written, but he does share the journey of being a ghostwriter. So I thought I'd share this podcast with you, a unique look at the writing process from the pen and the screen of a ghostwriter. So this is Mark Griffin on Living the Next Chapter. Hope you enjoy it. Have a great day. Thanks for listening. Hello, everybody. I have a good friend with me today, somebody that I truly respect. He wrote all this out for me to say. His name is Mark Griffin. I have known Mark Griffin for probably most of my adult life, and really enjoy speaking to a good friend with lots of great stories. And this is Mark Griffin. Everyone say hello.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. Nice to see you, David. Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So
my privilege.
Tell me, Mark, we go back all the way back to like my entire married life, basically. So over 28 years plus.
Wow.
That we've known each other.
You said adult life. So you're not assuming that I'm an adult, are you?
No, I don't want to put that heavy thing on you this early in the
your
podcast.
Adult life.
My adult life, yes.
Just making sure.
So we have worked together in youth ministry and a bunch of stuff in the past. And it's nice to reconnect and catch up. We've had a brief conversation already, but let's kind of go back a little bit and give everybody a little backstory about Mark so we can all catch up together.
Sure. Well, I've, as Dave mentioned, we know each other from youth ministry days. And I knew Dave and Jen probably first when you were in North Bay. Would that be accurate? Yeah. So that's 25, 26 years ago, maybe? Yeah, long time ago anyways. And after youth ministry days, I was a minister, like a senior minister in a church for a while. And I was an executive pastor out in Western Canada in Calgary. And what else did I do there for a bit? We did 2 stints overseas in Germany. And we loved Europe. It was a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. We did some leadership training stuff over there, purchased a hotel. Maybe you've seen the movie, I Bought a Hotel.
Wow.
Converted that into leadership training facilities, and it's still going to this day. And then I pastored another church out in Calgary. So we had 2 stints in Europe, 2 stints in Calgary. And a lot of fun work, mostly church related or nonprofit agency related. I've been giving leadership to some nonprofits as well in the last decade. So that's my main gig. That's my background. That's kind of who I am, what I've done, and that's where our paths cross. So a lot of fun, a lot of different locations, and we've been very fortunate to travel. See the world.
It's great. And that's a pretty vast variety of things that you have done, right? Did one position tend to lead itself into the next, or are they just completely different opportunities that presented themselves?
Well, I'm ADHD, so I do tend to bore quickly, and things, we've just kind of moved around a bit. Some of it by choice, other times just by circumstance, and some of it did lead one thing into the other, and then some of them were just random career moves or changes, and we just do our best to roll with it. And also our kids have had to roll with it. Our kids have lived in different countries and presently we have a daughter in BC, a daughter in Calgary, and a son in Halifax. And then our fourth son still at home is here in Stony Creek, Ontario. So it tends to scatter the family because they all have the travel bug. And we've left one in Calgary and another moved to BC. So another to Halifax. So that's kind of how it goes when you're bouncing around.
Pretty well got the country covered. That's amazing. Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
So they kind of your kids set down roots as you kind of go through your travels too, right? And
that's a little bit sad.
Yeah.
But hopefully they're closer to home when they all start having babies.
Yeah, there you go. Because otherwise you've got a lot of travel days ahead of you to go see everyone, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So in all of these different positions you've had, Mark, have you had opportunities to have a side hustle during these times, or did you start side hustling more when you settled where you are now?
Yeah, it's just over a decade, and I kind of stumbled into this side hustle of writing. And I've always done a bit of writing, kind of a little bit of a creative outlet. I'm more a design guy. My one daughter went into information design, which is kind of like infographics and graphic arts combined with writing and editing and processing information. So that seems to be inherent in our genes and our family DNA. But another outlet I have is writing, and I've done a little bit of writing. I like to do travel reviews because we've traveled so much. So I review restaurants and hotels. I've written a few articles just for church-related periodicals and newsletters, but I wouldn't say like I'm a prolific writer. But I initially got into the side hustle of writing because some friends were just looking for some help. It was a situation where one guy was too busy and he needed to produce he's in the entertainment industry, and he needed to produce some written work, and a lot of it in scripting. So he just needed some help. For him, that was something that he probably needed to do 30 or 40 hours a month of to stay on top of. So he just cut the work in half and asked me to take on half of it for him as part of his job, as just a side contract. And because he really, really needed to do it in his name, I just picked up his writing style. I looked at some of his previous writing examples and produced ghostwriting material for him. So I was producing scripts under his name for him, and just thought I'd do it for a few months, but then that ended up being 2 years. And, the money was good, and I could just basically take a weekend a month and prep it Friday night and do most of my writing on Saturday. If I had a bit of writer's block, I could do it Saturday and a bit Sunday afternoon. And I didn't know anything about writing. I have an English background from university days, but it wasn't my major. It was just, took a few courses, enjoyed writing and a bit, but to be honest with you, I don't love it, but it's like the money is so good for the amount. Like it's labor intensive. You do your research, you do your work. And then from there, it just kind of spilled over into the whole last decade. And what I really liked about it was the portability of it, Dave. So I could do it from Europe, continued that first contract there. And then one thing led to another. And then I found myself doing books. I've written 6 books now, 5 of which were published. The other one was just a project that I did. And then the person who commissioned that project died. But the important thing was I was able to help with the legacy. The family still has all the notes. And so essentially what I found out is ghostwriting is writing in another person's place, but the art of it is capturing the person's voice.
Yeah. That's got to be
So,
very interesting to do that. You're basically literally stepping into their shoes and
mhm.
capturing their cadence, capturing their thought process, everything. Like you're like a stunt double for writers.
Yeah,
Really?
that's a very, very good way of putting it. So if I can do a lot of the prep work live like this, either one-on-one, uh, on camera, or even better, I like to do writing retreats. And in later years, that's what I've done. I've just incorporated that into the contract that we would do writing retreats, of course, at the customer's expense, and go away to a hotel for 3, 4, 5 days and park it and just focus on that 9 to 5. Sometimes we have longer days and go like 9 till 7 or 8 or 9, and just try to enjoy wherever we have the writing retreat. I mean, it's nice for me. I've actually hosted a writing retreat here because we're only, as is the case with you, we're only 45, 50 minutes from Niagara
Yeah.
Falls. Beautiful place. And in the off season, an incredibly cheap place to
Yeah.
get hotels.
Yeah.
So the customers always like when those expenses are kept down. But when you spend, 4 or 5 days with somebody, and you're in a hotel, you're in a lounge somewhere, you're going to restaurants together, you really get to know who they are at the core. And like you said, you can kind of pick up on how they think. There's lots of little nuances of things that they say and the way that they say it. And not all of it necessarily translates to written form.
Mm.
Again, people have these quirky little idioms and ways of saying things that you really have to just punctuate it, add a lot of periods,
Mm.
bend the grammar rules, a lot of semicolons when a complete sentence leads into an incomplete thought. And, but essentially what happens is when you spend a week with somebody in a hotel, you come away with literally 30, 40, 50 hours of dictated, digital formatted notes. And thankfully, very early in this process, I discovered there's a number of companies that'll take digital notes, usually from people like doctors and lawyers, but they're glad to work for writers too, and translate these digital notes relatively inexpensively into written format, again, digital format. And then I can just begin, I don't want to say it's writing, it's more like editing those notes. But some of it is incredibly unusable because people can be rambling on literally for hours on end, not really answering questions that anyone's asking.
Yeah.
So the part I like about it is I'm sitting there as a reader, as a viewer, both. And as the person is expounding on whatever topic or whatever story, I have to fill in the blanks instantly on the spot. Where did this happen? And sorry, you said this was 19 years ago?
Mm.
Oh, this is a different thing. Okay, how long? This was only 8 years ago. So you're getting a lot of clarifying details on the spot. And just trying to think both as a writer and as a reader, how to translate this into usable notes. And then again, I thank goodness for Google and various search engines, just able to look up how to ghostwrite and little tricks and tips and tools to capture the person's voice. And just one example is you can find these little phrases that are recurring for people.
Okay.
Like some people say, all the time. Yeah. And there's a lot of people that talk in the second person all the time. They'll be like, so Dave, you got to know, like, I went to the bus and you got to get a bus ticket when you go on the bus. So when you get your bus ticket and everything's about you,
Yeah.
and I can't use any of that.
Yeah.
I have to translate it all to first person, and tell the story, and stay away from those recurring phrases,
Mhm.
and it happen 500 times a minute, it seems like. And anyways, it's a lot of sifting, and it's a delight when you come to the end and you send it back to the client for the first reading, and they are very excited. They're like, how did you do that? This is exactly what I would have written if I could write. So I got a little bit of disco going on.
I love that. Yeah.
Why don't I just shut that
Sure.
down? So much for professionalism.
There you go.
I'm back without the disco going.
I was enjoying the disco. That was nice.
Yeah, thank you. I get that a lot.
So you're basically, in your role, you're reading people.
Yeah.
Ian.
Which I mean, Dave, you know enough of my history. I'm very much a people person. And in many ways, I'm not really comfortable talking about myself, and I ask a lot of questions naturally, and I'd rather hear your story.
Mm.
So in terms of just my personal demeanor and deportment, I love it. I love that part of it, getting to hear from people and then studying them and how they communicate and what they're most passionate about, and highlighting those things stylistically through writing, and capturing the voice. That's really, as I said, that's the art of this side hustle. And I can't imagine doing this full time. I do have friends that are professional writers. Actually, one of the books, I'll put in a shameless plug for fellow author Stina Holmes.
Okay.
Some of you might be familiar with her fiction. She's a brilliant writer, New York Times bestseller, had a very successful career. And I see her working through writing deadlines and, writer's cramp and just all these kind of things. I think I couldn't do this as a full-time gig. It would drive me nuts. But again, I wouldn't say I love it, but it's such an honor to tell people's story. And that's the part I love. The writing is really hard work. And I know for a lot of people you probably talk to, Dave, their side hustle is just something they enjoy and maybe couldn't make a full-time living off of. For me, it's something I tolerate, but it really helps pay the bills, especially when you're living overseas, but you have a Canadian contract back home. Yeah. You pay Canadian taxes on it. Nothing gets complicated in your just your taxes or anything like that. It's all just straightforward contractual income in Canada, even though I'm doing the work overseas. It's Canadian related income, and I claimed it as such. So it's something I kind of stumbled into, and one thing led to another. And as I said, this author, she was approached by a friend that she knew and said, "Hey, you're a writer. Could you write my story for me?" And she said, "Oh, sorry, I don't do that. But I know a guy, Mark Griffin, and he'd be delighted to do that for you. Why don't you talk to him?" And it actually worked out. You know how sometimes you get referrals and they go nowhere, but this instantaneously came together, and led to a beautiful contract and a friendship that remains to this day.
It's great. So Mark, I would think you'd be proud of the work. And for me, if I was looking at it being a ghostwriter, the only downside I could potentially see would be the fact that I can't promote it as my writing, my words, my project, right? And then I would just kind of feel like, if you put it in a musical sense, it'd be like someone else singing my song, and I'm like, oh, I wrote that song. Nobody knows I wrote that song. Does that feel strange at all to be in that situation?
It is a little bit surreal at times, but for me, again, it's more so personality type. I always loved, when I was a boss, to work with my staff and see them prosper and gain notoriety and popularity. And then it's not like, oh, that's my work. It's like, oh, that's my boy.
Nice.
So I think it depends on whether you take your identity from what you do, or do you take your identity from who you are. And who I am is I'm a big brother. Like, even though in the natural sense I'm the youngest of three boys, I do really enjoy seeing people around me prosper. I really get a kick out of seeing people under my tutelage or in my employ. I really get a kick out of seeing them succeed. And so in this respect, I love hearing somebody's story. And I think as some of the people, there's one guy I wrote for, very successful businessman, had some great world-changing concepts that he wanted to put in writing, wanted to put into book form. But he literally struggled to put a sentence together in writing. He could talk. He was very articulate, very sharp, very knowledgeable, especially in his area of expertise. But to be able to take a guy who literally was probably writing at a grade 7, grade 8 level. I don't know how he got through college, probably dictated his essays and had somebody type them out for him. I don't know. But he was, moderately educated and very sharp, very articulate man, just couldn't write. And what a joy to be able to put a finished product. That was actually my largest ghostwriting project. I think I started with 600 pages of notes, flew to Los Angeles for a week of ghostwriting. What do we call that again? Retreat. Yeah. And we were at the LAX at a beautiful Hilton and saw a little bit of Los Angeles, but not much. And to come home with 600 pages of notes. Again, he's very verbose, very articulate, and all kinds of material. So I had to edit out a lot of the things that he said twice or 3 times, organize it. We followed a writing format. We followed an outline, but he was still all over the map. So there's a great deal of pride in seeing him succeed.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess not everybody's wired that way. A lot of people be like, what about me?
Yeah.
And be a little pouty, but I don't know. I don't know where I get that from. I was as I said, as the youngest of 3 boys, kind of used to not being in the limelight all the time. And as you know, in later years, Dave, I already got my kick at the can with lots of public platform, and it's not really something I crave. Like I do, especially through COVID, I hardly did any public speaking.
Yeah.
Very quiet. And I wouldn't say it affected me adversely. Like I miss it, but it's good to see other people get their dream. There's a lot of people that have dreamed of writing a book, but just can't. And on the other end of the extreme, I wrote for another gentleman. He's PhD, absolutely brilliant. I assume he'd be fairly well off. And for him, money was never an issue. He never batted an eye, never negotiated any of the contracts, just signed them. Yeah. But he didn't have the time. Again, brilliant man, exceptionally knowledgeable and gifted in his career. And he just wanted some legacy, wanted to write down his thoughts because he really is a brilliant man. And here I am writing for a guy that was my most intensive research project because I knew next to nothing about what he was writing about. So I learned a lot. And again, very proud of that work that, here's PhD on the byline. I'm not a PhD, but I got to write for a guy who was. Yeah. So, there's a lot of pride in just being the unknown servant, helping, pushing others to the front, letting their story be told. Because I think just in view of history and all that is to come, in many ways, our lives are not hugely significant, but to think that we get to partner with sharing the story, the wisdom of other people with others, that's just an incredible gift. And yeah, I'm profoundly thankful and grateful for that opportunity. So
it's interesting, Mark, because that's, as you're talking and as you're explaining, not getting the glory for the book, you've lived that the entire time I've known you. That's who you are, right?
Probably. Yeah.
I think of like you think of a typical church setting, you have the platform and the pulpit, and then you have the speaker. You were always to me and to Jen the platform builder. You would make the stage and make sure it was safe and ready to go, and then you'd give the mic to somebody. It wasn't about you having the mic. You wanted to make sure everything was set up for the right person, right? And do everything possible. So you lived that back when we knew you years ago, and you're doing that through ghostwriting. It's kind of seems like a natural fit as you're talking. That would be a good spot for you.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. Like, I didn't go looking for this side hustle. It just kind of emanated from who I was. Some friends needed some help. I pretty much said yes even before I knew the parameters. Like, oh, you need help? Yes, of course, anything I can do. And there's a lot of gratification that comes from being able to help others and to do it well. And then to be able to get a paycheck as well on the side. Like, when we first went to Europe, we didn't have enough money to cover our salary, and we were responsible for raising our own support, being part of a huge charitable organization. So to be able to raise that first year over 20% of our income through ghostwriting, that put us over the top, and we were able to go and start right away in Germany. Even though the finances weren't there, I could say, oh, it's okay, I got a side hustle.
Nice.
And it's funny, just as that side hustle, that first contract came to an end, I was like, oh, what are we going to do? Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. We have other supporters now. We're okay. Our income is at 100% now. And so it's and I think that happens a lot of times in life, is you don't have to go looking for your destiny. You just serve others faithfully, and destiny finds you. And I find that, like, if I'm stuck at whatever point of life I'm at, if I look for somebody to help, and this isn't just a ministry maxim, it's just a life philosophy. If you help others, said another way and from another religion, it's karma. But from the Christian perspective, you reap what you sow. So if you help others, it seems doors open, things happen, things start to, and there's been a couple of the projects like, oh, I really am not excited about this, but you know what? This is important. This needs to get done. I need to help this person. And there's always great benefits from that. And again, I know I'm speaking kind of ethereally without stories to back it up. But again, every project I've done except one has non-disclosure agreements written right into the contract, and they get all the credit. My name doesn't even go on it. And it's cool. It's wonderful. It's a fun opportunity. And I look back and scratch my head and think, I got to do that. Wow. I got to travel here or there. I got to help this person tell this story. Wow. That was cool.
Have you had opportunity then in the beginning of your journey as a side hustle doing ghostwriting to partner up with a fellow ghostwriter to get some guidance and some mentorship at all?
Not directly, just read stuff out of a blog and a little bit of correspondence with fellow ghostwriters. It's one of those things, pretty much anytime you get into group support, there's a lot of self-discovery, like, oh, yeah, I do that. That happens to me too. Yeah, I get it. So there are, enough things online to learn from others, their wisdom. Um, yeah, in terms of actually getting into a relationship with a fellow ghostwriter, I wouldn't know where to start.
Yeah.
If you're watching this and you want to start a relationship as a ghostwriter, I welcome that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because it's hard to meet people in the industry because everybody's doing it secretly. So, and there are big firms, but I'm as far away from that as you can be in terms of I'm just an independent guy doing it on the side for fun. And yeah, it's weird.
And so you could be writing about any topic at all, really, right? Like from a teaching type perspective of a topic, or a autobiography, or anything really, right? You're not just limited to one type of one style of writing.
Yeah. And the one I can talk about is a book that I wrote with a gentleman by the name of Tony Bussey. He's the guy that approached Stina Holmes, and Stina said, try Griff. So I met Tony. He's from Newfoundland. And he has an interesting story because he used to weigh about 600 pounds. And he was part of the Fort McMurray wildfire and working up in the oil patch. And when he went to be evacuated, he took up 2 seats on the bus. And when he got to the airport, he took up 2 seats on the airplane. And he was so upset, just a good man, good Christian man. And he was so upset when he landed in Edmonton. He got a meal that night and he took the skin off the chicken, didn't get fries. He just got a salad, didn't have dressing on his salad. Long story short, a year later, he's lost about 300 pounds. And all he did was he didn't know anything about diet. So he wanted to tell his story because on CBC Newfoundland, his story had over 1 million hits. And so it was definitely an interesting story. And through some connections, I was between his publicist and myself, we were able to open a number of doors. He got on many TV shows and radio talk shows, like did a bunch of podcasts, like brilliant guy, brilliant story. And Tony Bussey, like I said, he's a friend to this day. And he's the guy I went to Niagara Falls with and did a writing retreat and introduced him to the Anchor Bar in Buffalo, the home of chicken wings. We went to a Leaf Sabres game together. So, I mean, come on, you have Anchor Bar wings with somebody in Buffalo, the home of Buffalo chicken wings. And you go to a hockey game. Come on, you're friends for life. And so that book is the only one. Like I did the contract with him, and he said, "No, I don't care. I'd like to share the byline with you." So it's Through Thick and Thin by Tony Bussey with Mark Griffin. And for over a year, that book was a Canadian bestseller. It's in a bizarre category, but I can't remember. Natural disaster category. It was a #1 seller in the natural disaster category. So that was 3 years after the Fort McMurray fire that he finally got that book to print, and he just self-published, and we helped him with that. And yeah, what a joy to be able to meet this delightful guy and become friends with him and tell his story. So yeah, that was really cool.
And without your assistance, that probably might not have happened then, right, for him?
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah. Again, he's just not a writer, not who he is. Again, college graduate, sharp guy. But just not his thing to write. But he's working up in the oil patch, making decent money. He saved up for a while and just felt this was something he wanted to do, was tell his story, because he really felt he could help others. And a lot of the testimonials that came from this were, wow, what an inspiration. This has really helped me. And, since reading the book, I've done a lot of similar things. And again, it's not like a diet plan. It's just eating smarter, getting junk food out of your life, and eating clean, no white flour, no sugar, just healthy food. And for him, it's changed his life. And, there's one of those pictures where he's holding up his old jeans and it's really twice as wide as he is. And that picture's right on the back of Through Thick and Thin. And it's available on Amazon. So, yeah, still every now and then, probably once every 2 or 3 months, I'll get some royalties from Amazon. And it's not a lot now, but yeah. And different contracts, we negotiate different prices. If I really believe in the product and think it's going to sell, I'll drop my contract price up front and just take a chunk of the royalties. But either way, it's not something I'm getting rich off of. It's residual income that, yeah, nice. It's a nice help.
It's nice when you don't put the financial stress on a side hustle where you want it to pay for everything, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have that expectation of your side hustle, then you don't have that built-in pressure to, this has to make money or it can't be successful, right? You have a little bit of flexibility there.
Yeah, I think that's what takes the fun out of it, is if there's pressure, and especially if the pressure's there and you're not meeting your expectations or goals. And I think that's part of what makes a side hustle really excellent. It's either something you really enjoy doing and you do it for free anyways, and it brings you back some income, or it's something that you can do or you're capable of that it just helps. It helps to have some extra money. And again, for me, it's a great personality fit. And when I'm with the client, working with the client, I love it. When I have to be by myself for 6 weeks with a computer and every week disciplining myself to get a certain amount of material out, that's work, but it is rewarding. And it is, sometimes it's fun, not always fun, but when is work always fun? If you can find that job.
I love it. So if somebody was wanting to become a ghostwriter and they're listening to this and they're thinking, I think I have the chops, I'm definitely curious, what would be like step 1 and 2 to take steps towards becoming a ghostwriter?
Hard for me to say because I stumbled into it, but my best guess would be to have some English background, especially if you have a degree in English or a minor in English. That can't hurt. I'm an avid reader. Like, I love to read, although that's slowed down significantly since I've had kids. Yeah, I think the more you read and hear different voices, you kind of learn the art of being able to open a book without looking at it, reading a paragraph and saying, oh, that's obviously Jane Austen. I recognize that writing anywhere. And a lot of us have that innate skill, whether we know it or not. And I think the more you read, the more you familiarize yourself with stylistic differences. And that's just a great groundwork. But as far as getting involved in the profession, again, there are companies you can contact. Again, do Google search of ghostwriting, find some companies, and ask how you could get involved with them. Not sure if they're looking for a body of work in terms of a resume. I don't know what I could share as a body of work anyways, because it's all confidential. But another good thing is to prepare for a writing career by writing. Just write like there's no tomorrow. Journal, write several times a week, whatever it takes for you to just sharpen your writing skill. It's one of those things, the more you do it and then read your own work and correct it, and edit it, and go over it, organize it, that it becomes second nature. And occasionally, if I'm in the middle of a ghostwriting contract and I'm stuck, I'll go do a couple reviews for TripAdvisor or Expedia, and so again, I have I saw a thing. I've written some reviews on just different businesses for Google Maps. I have over 100,000 hits on Google Maps for stuff that I've written. And I think, wow, too bad I can't monetize that. Too bad these weren't tied into my, I wish I'd sold 100,000 books somewhere. I could retire. But yeah, a bestseller in Canada is 1,000 books. Yeah, like it's hard to sell. Like if you're selling $8,000 or $10,000, somebody, or 8,000 or 10,000 books, somebody's going to be looking you up and asking you about a contract, because it's a big deal to sell 1,000 books. Most people write a book and they sell several hundred copies. That's very typical. And a lot of people end up getting stuck with a lot of product. So yeah, the art of self-publishing is something we learned from our friend Stina Holmes. And anybody can write a book and publish it online. Start to finish, you're looking a couple $100 to publish a book online and get it for sale on Amazon. That's not half the battle. That's not even probably a quarter of the battle. That's maybe 10% of the battle, because you actually got to sell it.
Yeah.
That's the toughest part. And I can't speak to that at all.
Yeah.
I don't know that stuff.
So the one thing, like we have our small business, and because of COVID, we had to close down, and we weren't allowed to be open. So I still had the bills. So I took a night job. So I work all night, and then I'm at the store during the day. So it's crazy. But anyway, I was listening to music every night. We have free Wi-Fi. So I'm just stocking shelves. It's nothing mind expanding as far as work-wise. It's just the same thing. So I listen to music. Got to the point where I'm like, it's like candy. It's had enough of something else. So I started doing like Audible books and stuff. And I'm just like, I keep scraps pieces of cardboard with me, and I make notes as I listen. But I love just learning. Like I love feeling like at the end of my shift, I got paid to hear a book and learn something new, right? Or podcasting is also another great thing to listen to as well. But I just love that kind of interaction with a book in Audible format. When you're busy and you don't have time to sit and read, you can still use that time, right? So as a ghostwriter writing a book for somebody, if they wanted it to be an Audible version, I guess, would the author then read the book, or would they hire somebody or something?
You can either hire a voice actor or do it yourself. I think most people are looking to hear the author's voice. Mm-hmm. It somehow connects them more with the story. I could do it because people tell me I have a great face for radio. So that's a thing.
Yeah. I love talking to you, Mark. It's great.
Thanks, Dave.
So we're going to close off soon, because I know you have a lot of books to write. Would you ever write your own book, Mark?
Yeah, I do have a short list of things that I would consider writing about, but it would really have to, I don't know, when I see all the things that are written that aren't worth talking about, not worth buying, I'm not saying it would have to be a bestseller, but it would really have to pull at me, because I know how much work it is to do it well. And it's one thing to do it for somebody else and get paid. When you do it for yourself, your only payoff you can count on is you got to tell your story, or you got to share your expertise. So I'm not in a hurry. And I am very thankful for the experience, because now I feel whatever book I write, say I wrote it this year, it would be my 7th book. So, I have a lot of experience, and hopefully it would come off a better product because of how I've written for others and served others. Yeah.
Because
maybe
the one thing I always keep hearing people talk about is, of the millions and millions of people in the world, there's only one Mark Griffin, there's only one Dave Campbell, and the story that you can tell is your story alone, and that story might help somebody, right?
Yeah, and you can't really refute someone's story. It's their perspective, it's their grasp on life, and it's always worth learning from them. There's always something to learn from somebody's perspective. And again, that's one of the kickbacks of ghostwriting, is just seeing people fulfill that expression that they've been longing to write about and just needed some help with. And I'm very thankful for my side hustle. It's been a financial help and blessing. But it's also been very fulfilling, and I've loved that about it. I love looking at a finished product. I love hearing and sensing the joy of the recipient, the author, and then to see how it impacts people, to see some of their comments on Amazon or wherever it's posted. It's cool. It's just very, very rewarding to know that you helped with that finished product.
It's amazing. So if somebody wanted to talk to you about potential of writing for them, is there a way that they could contact you? Are you open to that?
Yeah, my best bet, or for any follow-up questions, you can hit markgriffin.ca, and there's both an email link. You can write me from the email, or you can post on the form. I only check that once a month because I don't do I'm not doing a lot of side hustle right now, but still some people still occasionally contact me through the website, so I do check that occasionally. And now that I've put it out there, I'll be checking it as it goes live. But markgriffin.ca, because I'm Mark Griffin.
Yes.
And I'm from Canada. So.
And if there's a potential ghostwriter that would love to connect and do community with you, you're open to that as well?
Sure. Hit me up on that same website, or best bet is to find the email on the website and just link to my email, because I do check my email every day, just not the website email. So, better to go through the email directly. But again, it's all on markgriffin.ca, as well as other services we provide, like consulting, coaching. I do a bit of those as side hustle as well. But that more so happens through word of mouth. The website is just, a desktop storefront for those services, and a calling card for people who might not remember me, but if you remember my name, you remember my website. So it's that easy.
Yeah. So from my perspective, as much as it matters, listening to my words fully endorse this gentleman, because he has been there for me and for my wife many, many times. Comes from a place of servant heart and leadership. And like I said, he's the guy that'll build you your stage and quietly sit in the corner and let you take the accolades, but realize that you wouldn't be there without him. He's a great guy. So if you have any interest or any curiosity about this is the person to talk to. And I would really encourage you to reach out to Mark. He will treat you like a king. And that's just who he is every day.
Thanks, David. It's an honor to share with you and anybody else we can help along the way. We're very pleased to do that. So thanks for having me, and word to Jen as well.
I will pass along the love. Yes. Thank you so much, Mark, for your time today and for being David. On the podcast. I hope you enjoy podcasting, because you're like an expert.
I just love talking. I love gabbing. So I love a good conversation. And if it happens to be recorded, why not?
And you look great in your blue shirt, by the way.
Thank you. It's so much nicer than my red shirt. You see how dressed up I am now in my blue t-shirt?
You're so official. I know.
That just happened. Boom.
Thanks, Mark. Enjoy your day. We will talk soon.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
Cheers.
Hi, guys. This is Dave from Living the Next Chapter, a podcast designed to connect authors and audiences. We're always on the lookout for our next interview. If you're an author, a publisher, and you have a book, whether you're just starting, whether you're halfway through writing, or it's all done and you want to tell the world, that's why we're here at Living the Next Chapter. Get in touch with us through livingthenextchapter.com, contact us, and let's set up some time together to discuss your book, to discuss your project, and how we can get you on the show. My name is Dave, and I would love to speak to you. So go to livingthenextchapter.com, and let's get over there together and discuss all the great things that you're up to as an author, as a publisher, and let's grow your audience together. Join us on livingthenextchapter.com for great authors and an audience that's eager to hear about what you're up to as an author and a publisher. Contact us today and let's get your book out in front of others. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.